Hi, welcome to my set of videos. This is Patricia Ann Landon Regali, Chief Little Flower, coming at you from the trenches of having been targeted. I am a targeted individual that have been targeted since about the age of 25 for about a couple of years. Then it would recess into the background on and off until the year of COVID, about 2020, whenever gang stalking had reemerged in full force and full effect. At the time of this recording, it is November 2024, and the gang stalking, the PSYOP assignments still continue. And so my videos they're about my experiences as a targeted individual. I had been railroaded out of a successful and thriving career as a paramedic. I've been a paramedic for about 13 years before I walked away from my profession as a paramedic for two reasons. The first one was so I could speak freely about being heavily targeted and gang stalked in medical facilities by other medical professionals. If I were to hold a job in the medical world, that would be a huge conflict of interest for me and any potential employer. And so I have a passion for sharing this with the world because what's happened to me can happen to anybody. And if we were to shrink in fear, how would anybody ever rise up to protect themselves and to arm themselves with the knowledge of objective data? And additionally, since I was being targeted in the medical world, I knew it was a matter of time before somebody was paid to bear false accusations against my license. In other words, it was a matter of time before people would just make false accusations on my license. So those were the two reasons why I had nobly walked away from my career as a paramedic. And so I decided not to renew my license because if my license was inert and non-viable, nobody could make any accusation against it. So I stayed 10 steps ahead of the community-based harassment. And so these videos are about my thoughts. They're about my experiences as a heavily targeted individual. So thank you for stopping. One of the issues about gang stalking that I've learned is that, ironically, gang stalkers do not like it whenever you bring up the subject of gang stalking in front of them, let alone to their family members. And so the irony is that these family members will go after each other. So you have to remember that these coven sacrifices is a blood sacrifice, meaning that it is your blood relatives that you have to sacrifice for it to warrant any of the effects they're seeking. So for instance, if a celebrity wanted to maintain their celebrity status or opt into celebrity status, if they don't want to incriminate themselves or sully their own hands, they'll end up sacrificing somebody within their familial lineage, such as a sister sacrificing their own sister, or a sibling sacrificing their own sibling. And so while they sacrifice them, you also have to remember that this is a sacrifice culture. Anybody who's being gang stalked has typically been sacrificed, and typically by somebody of their own lineage. And so, and if you've been sacrificed, you're also being gang stalked. You're being a targeted individual, because anytime the targeted individual gets upset, that is an energy burst, and the energy burst solicited from getting upset or crying or depressed about being treated unfairly is something that can be harvested, because if your targeted individual is pretty copacetic with maintaining a high vibe, they have to bring them down to be able to harvest their energy. Otherwise, it's complete crabs in a barrel, crabs in a bucket analogy, because if someone's vibing high here and you're here, you know, typically because of all of the gang stalking and all of the backbiting and of all of the two-faced emotions and psychology against somebody, there's no way you can get to somebody up there, which is why that holding on to your joy is in of itself a weapon against the enemy. And so that enemy can sometimes be your own goddamn family. And so another thing that gang stalkers hate is whenever you bring up their PSYOP assignments to them. They get mad, they get defensive, and then they treat you as if you had done something wrong simply by shining a light on it. And so, and typically also these gang stalkers, they teach their children how to target individuals, how to play PSYOP assignments, and they teach the children to go get the PSYOP assignment from their own handlers. Now you have to remember that this is like a business in of itself, which is the treason section, arm and leg of the government. This is not conspiracy theory. This is an entity in of itself. It is a treason entity. The same government that passed out the smallpox blankets during the Indian Oregon Trail of Tears, and the same government that will kill whistleblowers or make them look crazy for truth-telling, for speaking the truth. And so, for instance, whenever I was renting a room over in near Seattle, Washington, in a place just north of Seattle, Linwood, one of the first things right before, not before I moved in, but when I moved in, my colleague, who was another one of the workers when I was delivering parts for a particular car dealership, we were cool, and all of a sudden he turned on me, like completely turned. He goes, "Oh, and by the way, no conspiracy theories." And he was like, "No conspiracy theories talked about in this house." I'm like, whoa. First off, he said to me he was a targeted individual. And if you believe you're a targeted individual, how on earth can that be a conspiracy theory? But he was damned for sure if I was going to speak about it at all. And it turned out his roommate was targeting me. Don't know about a son, but he had a son in his like early 20s. And I'm thinking, you're hosting targeting of the individual in your own house when you supposedly were targeted. So are you teaching your child to target individuals also? I don't know the answer for that for sure. But he definitely didn't want me to educate anybody about being targeted, especially it would be such a nuisance to have to deal with your target talking about being targeted whenever you're trying to kick them in the gonads so you can earn sudden wealth payouts off their demise. And ironically, this dude exhibited homicidal ideation in front of me, to me, about me. He, as evidenced by, I had a scimitar hanging on my decorations, and which I used for, it's a balanced scimitar that I used for belly dancing, and also had a wick on the end of it for fire, for the flow arts. And so he looked at me, he's like, "That's not going to fall and hit your head, is it?" And I'm all like, "I balanced this on my head." So if it fell and hit me on my head, well, so what? No, but if you were going to strike me on the head with it, that's a different story. And then so a few days later, I did get the confirmation that he was a gang stalker. And so as soon as I figured that out, I stopped sleeping there altogether, and I didn't continue renting the room from him. But I was pretty upset with him because he has a child. How can you have that kind of demonic activity while you're raising a kid? So what if they're in their 20s? You're going to teach them how to be a demonic, diabolic individual, two-faced at that, and ruin his chances of ever having a happy relationship? Because if you teach a kid how to compensate their morality for some money, who's going to say that's going to be solid living for them to stick to their guns of morality when you taught a kid how to compensate morality for money, which made them a prostitute with dirt clothes on? And then so, ironically, at the last place I was staying, they had good cop, bad cop. The good cop was my cousin. Everybody knows that I was a grateful recipient of her help, but as it is my allegations that ever since I got there, she was targeting me as well, along with her foster child. Those are pretty heavy allegations, and I stand by that. Now, whether or not it's true, only God knows. Hence, this is why they're allegations. And so anybody who had been, if there are any feds out there, CIA, DEA, who was tailing me, studying me, surveying me, well, I hope you guys were smart enough to survey, to study, to tail the people I was living under the same roof with. Every Sunday, they would supposedly go to church, but neither one of them went to the same church. How does that work? The foster child was 17, and by the time that anybody wants me to censor my allegations because she is a minor, well, she turns 18 in March, so she'll be able to be tried as an adult as well. So, was I supposed to roll over and just take it? Was I supposed to roll over and just die? To all of the people thinking they were handling me with their gang stalking, with the targeting of the individual, are you pissed off at me because I am a truth teller? Are you offended that I call you out as the decrepit targeter of the individual that you have been towards me? Because whenever you taught your child how to target in anybody, you taught them how to be a bully is what you did. Is your legacy a bully? And then so, as far as I had seen it, since I was no longer in the firing pan of the trenches being targeted by the public at large, I welcomed being targeted by somebody who is supposed to be my relative much easier than a barrage of strangers. So since I'm very well of you don't bite the hand that feeds you, I looked at it like this: whatever money she was making off targeting me, that was the rent. And so she did announce to others she had 3 jobs. So whereas her first 2 jobs, I knew that she was working in a rescue mission. Imagine that. She was targeting me. Who else was she targeting as a supervisor? That's scary to think, because I was not her first rodeo. And then, since I never brought attention to it, I just rolled with the punches. I was being victimized, I was being abused, I was being tormented, and I was being psychologically bullied on the regular with the PSYOP assignments. Look at my files of coinciding incidences. I documented some of them, and I sure as hell did not document all of them. And then so what happened was, I'm no longer there. I just wrapped up a course of steroids because of bronchitis, because of asthma. And then so I made a pact to myself to never mention it. to never accuse them of it, to never bring my allegations to them, because I liked where I was. I was able to be a happy shut-in where I didn't have to deal with the public. But ironically, I knew I was being isolated, because that's part of the program. You isolate the individual. But then I looked at it like we already had a talk that since I didn't want to be work mobbed, she was comfortable with me taking care of her dogs and taking care of just being there whenever her and her foster child would actually go on vacation. And so she did say that her and her foster child were always away from the house. It made it better that somebody was there that could enjoy the house, and the house didn't become one big glorified home that belonged to the dogs. She had 2 of them. So I appreciated that, and I regularly told her, and I don't hate her for shit. But honey, you didn't expect me to roll over and die, did you? As it is my allegation, she was in collaboration with Marcella Maria Comiskey, her other cousin, my full biological blood sister, that I allege has been spearheading the gang stalking on my ass. So if I had anybody surveying me, I sure as hell hope that you guys were surveilling my tormentor and her child. And so, but when I was always dealing with the barrage of PSYOP assignments, and during the last PSYOP assignment, I asked the child about the nature of the PSYOP assignment, and then I couldn't help it. After her child mocked me, I let it slip. I mean, the kid is 17 years old, 1 year out of being tried for an adult as an 18-year-old. No, more like 4 months, 3 months. She becomes 18 in March. So I let it slip, and I called her gang stalker. And then she told on me, which is fine. I have nothing to hide here. And then that's whenever my cousin came home early off work and said, "Don't you come after my child. If you have a problem, you take it up with me." I'm like, dude, all I did was call her a gang stalker, because she is a gang stalker. I allege you have been letting her go get her happy, helpful training from her handler and getting her assignments on how to PSYOP me with. You should be accountable for that. How dare you break her future? So if you have an issue with me calling the truth, bitch, you shouldn't have even been targeting anybody in your own home, my love. And then so that's whenever she kicked me out of her house. But I will say this. Number one, she paid for a ticket for me to come to her when I was living on the ground whenever my truck was usurped while back in Washington. And then was very, very loving to my face. But the PSYOP assignments were going on behind my back, in my face. What you going to do about it? What you going to do? That's how prolific the PSYOP assignments were. And the whole point was to get me to act out of sorts and have a meltdown. I never had a meltdown. She had the meltdown when she got off work and was like, "If you want somebody to be a gang stalker, let it me, but you leave my kid out of this." I'm like, bitch, you taught your child how to gang stalk, my love. That's a problem. And anybody researching my case fucking knows. But, you know, really, cousin, you don't have anything to worry about, because to this day, nobody's come to bridge the ambiguity of my life with any truth. So you're just fine. Isn't that right, judicial? DOD, DOJ, whatever. And then so she did pay for my ticket out of there. Thank you. It was about $400 there, $400 out, and even gave me $50 to have in my pocket for just in case, which I was completely thankful. But the ticket did not include a suitcase to check in and I had a carry-on, so I couldn't take much with me. So all the clothes that she had gotten me while I was there, and she did get me clothes. She even bought me underwear, bought me bras and pants and shorts and t-shirts and such, and even pajamas. Like I said, she was very kind to my face, to my face, to my face. But when the PSYOP assignments grew in proliferation, it was in your face, it was in your face, it was in your face. What you gonna do about it? What you gonna do about it? What you gonna do about it? Oh, believe me, dear cousin, when I write my book, you're gonna have a whole chapter dedicated to you and your foster child and how you trained her to be abusive with your PSYOP assignments. The world needs to know. The world needs to know so it doesn't repeat itself. So if you don't like what I'm saying, take me to court. But thank you for my cot. Thank you for the roof over my head. But I could have done without the PSYOP assignments and the targeting. So that leaves me to wonder, so if you and my sister were in collaboration, does that mean the rest of your family are goddamn gang stalkers too? Is that why you don't give up the gang stalking route, because they're all as fucked up in the head as you are for the gang stalking part? And so while I was there, she did say, you need help. And that's all I'm going to say about it right there. And that's how I come to leave where I was prior to where I'm at right now. So I'm going to say this for everybody that's targeting somebody, and if your targeted individual has had to go into remediation because of the gang stalking, you all are responsible for that, and I am going to fry your ass in court. Because God forbid if I ever had to get on medication because of the gang stalking, because the rest of the world is like, it doesn't exist. I'm like, okay, fine, give me medication. If I had to do that, I am going to let you enjoy having the book of law of the Most High shoved down your gullet. And that goes for all of the targeted individuals who ever had to go on medication because they were being targeted, and it doesn't exist in the world. And I mean that facetiously, obviously, because it does exist. This is a white glove holocaust, honey. This is wireless, touchless, fenceless, cageless, big bread machine holocaust. So my big question that, and I have to thank Alchemy Games if you ever see this, my love. You provided me today's topic. Was I supposed to roll over and die? Was I supposed to allow you to exploit me? How much money did you make off of it? So guys, I allege I have a inheritance out there, and the inheritance that was usurped from me, which went into conservatorship to Barbara Regali, she ain't giving me shit. And nobody has approached me with truth of the ambiguity of my life, when a lot of people out there know the other half, such as Patrick Creekmore of the Woodlands High School class 1989, and his wife Penny Creekmore, and I allege Amy Coleman, maiden name, and I allege Kim Metcalf, maiden name. I don't know about Andrea Nino, maiden name, if she's married. But I don't hate any one of you. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Can you believe it? I don't hate any one of you. And that goes for Timothy Paul Regali. Does that mean Aaron Kohler knows what you've been doing? Has Aaron Kohler been a part of the gang stalking? And Mr. Aaron Kohler, if you had any knowledge of Tim gang stalking me, you are required by the Most High to turn him in, to report him. Because you need to be loyal to the truth, not to people. Otherwise, you get to enjoy his karma shoved down your gullet as well for being an enabler. So anybody who's offended that I just did not roll over and die, well, You will be my footstool if you're not already, because whenever the Most High vindicates me and my good name and me as a person, you're going to get it for the rest of your life. Because I was supposed to die. I was not supposed to make it this far. And whatever you all wanted for me, you get to have in your own goddamn life. How do you like that? Did you not think karma would vindicate me? Oh, you guys are above the law, right? And that goes with Barbara Regali, Paul Regali, Monica Regali, Brian Rice, that I can think of right now. And these are my allegations, because to this date, nobody's come to say anything on my behalf, and I've had to rely on the ethers for my information. So it's going to be really exciting here in these next couple months for everybody.